The PGA Tour is back for the third leg of the FedEx Cup playoffs, the BMW Championship outside of Chicago. Top 70 are at Conway Farms. Only 30 are going to advance to the Tour Championship at East Lake. Golf.com's Jeff Ritter and Dylan DeChair join me now to discuss. And guys, the chase for the FedEx Cup continues. Their guys are back from this week off, a rare week off in the middle of the playoffs. Jeff, do you think there's anyone out of this 70, maybe higher up in the playoff standings, that are going to benefit from having a little bit of rest going into the BMW?
It could happen. I wonder about the guys, too, that have been riding a hot streak. I mean, anybody that's ever played blackjack knows when you're at a hot table, you don't stand up and walk away, right? You want to stay there. So I would think maybe the break could be a good reset for some of the guys that are struggling or on the cut. And the first guy I start with is Rory. I mean, I don't know. It's been a weird summer for him, and we're looking at potentially a lost season for him at this point. But, you know, for me, it was actually kind of a surprise that he played in the FedEx Cup playoffs, given that he talked about how he was still being sort of affected by that rib injury or back injury after the PGA Championship. So let's see what he's got. You know, he's got a week off now to reset, get himself right. It's going to take probably a top 3 finish to make it to East Lake, but it's a course that sets up well with him, and I am once again, he's fooled me all summer. I felt like he was going to win more than he has and had a better year, but he's got one more chance this week to get right and make something happen.
What do you think, Dylan? Could it hurt or help anyone this week with that week off?
Yeah, this is kind of taking the other side of that, but I think you can go right to the top and look at a guy, Justin Thomas, who obviously won the last event. Winning's tiring. I walked around in Boston with Justin in the final round, and just the stress of being in contention, and then the attention afterwards from the press, from the fans. You're signing autographs, you're shaking hands all night. You see that a lot on tour. Guys will win an event and then miss the cut the next week. Hopefully he's got some time now to kind of skip that process and get fully reset going to Conway.
You hope it doesn't have the reverse effect, though. He's so hot. He's got the win at the PGA, the win at the Dell, the 6th place at the Northern Trust. 12 of his last 16 rounds are in the 60s. You hope he doesn't cool off by having to stay away from the golf course. A lot on the line overall this week. The coveted spot to have after the BMW would be in the top 5 of the FedEx standings. That would mean you control your own destiny at the Tour Championship. You win, and you win the playoff title. Plenty of golfers, though, can also play their way into East Lake. Guys, Dylan, is there maybe a guy in that 31 to 45 stage of the standings that could play himself right into the Tour Championship and really cap off a good end to the season?
Yeah, like you said, you really want to be in that top 5 just mathematically to have a chance at winning the Cup itself. But I looked at the Tour Championship as kind of a way to cap off the season. So it feels right to have Sergio there, right? He was an important part of this year's storylines, winning at the Masters. And another guy, Ian Poulter, who just earlier this year was, in danger of losing his card. It basically came down to math, and, a math error kept him in. And now he's on the cusp. If he has a good week, I think a top 5 might get him in that top 30, which would be a pretty cool way to cap it off.
What do you think, Jeff? I don't know about Sergio. No top 10s on the PGA Tour since the Masters. His focus, his motivation, I don't know if it's all there. Anyone else you see playing themselves into that top 30?
Sergio's had a be year.
Yeah.
Since he won the Green Jacket,
got a lot going
married.
on.
Yeah, he's had a good year no matter what happens for him this week. I look at Phil this week. You talk about motivation. Mickelson's on that President's Cup team, but he doesn't want to just get on the team. He wants to show up at Liberty National ready to go. He needs a good week here to get to East Lake and get another week of practice in, under the fire of competition. So he's just outside the line now. I think he's sitting at 36th. So top 10 finish here this week should do it. He had a top 10 finish last week under the, extra motivation to make a good impression for Steve Stricker. So I think he's rounding into form. I think he's fully motivated, and I think he makes it to East Lake.
Make no doubt, that top 30 is big. Not just to the Tour Championship. You get in all 4 majors if you get into that top 30, which is motivation